Hello, I'm Oliver Colling. This is the My 70s TV Childhood Quiz. Hello again, and welcome back to the quiz, which is all about UK television in the 1970s. We are the companion podcast to My 70s TV Childhood, which features lots of reminiscences of what it was like to be a child growing up in 70s Britain, and the important role that TV played in our lives back then. If you're new to us, firstly, where have you been for the last 5 years? And secondly, thank you for choosing to listen. You can find out more about the podcast at our blog, which is at www.my70stvchildhood.com, or on one of our many and varied social media sites, details of which can be found in the show notes. Now, a few of you have let me know that you'd rather not have much in the way of preamble to the quizzes because you're so desperate to get on with the questions. So, on this occasion, I will just get on with it, as Michael asked me to do via an email recently, which he sent to quiz@my70stvchildhood.com, and you can do the same if you want to let me know anything about the quiz. Okay, Michael, I will make a prompt start. As usual, we have 20 questions, over 4 rounds, 5 questions each. So if you're ready, grab a pen and paper, or digital equivalent, we're quite open to that. Make sure you have a drink with you. It's tea again for me this week. And let's begin with round 1. And this is a round called The Name of the Game. And unfortunately for some of you, it doesn't mean that we're going to have a round of questions about the marvellous songs of ABBA. No, what this means is it's all about game shows. So I'm going to describe a game show to you, and from those descriptions, you'll have to guess which show it is. Sounds reasonably straightforward? Okay, let's give it a try. Question 1. Hosted by Hughie Green, this show had a travel theme, and contestants could win a luxury holiday. Okay, question 2. This blackjack or pontoon-themed game show was hosted by Fred Dinage, known to many of us as Hal fame. What was the name of the show? Question 3. This one wasn't so much a game show rather than a show of games where contestants played pub games like darts, bar billiards and shove halfpenny, all linked together by England cricket legend Fred Truman, who would be sat in a cardigan smoking a pipe. What's the name of the show? And for question 4, this was a TV version of Cluedo. It's probably the best way I could describe it. It was a murder mystery game, first hosted by Edward Woodward in its first series, and then subsequently hosted by John Pertwee. What was the name of the show? What was it called? And finally, question 5. In this show, which was unusual as there were different versions of the show produced in different ITV regions, couples would demonstrate how much they knew, or more often didn't know, about their husband or wife, all in the hope that they might win a carriage clock to take home with them. And the carriage clock's quite important here. So what was that show? So how's that first round? Reasonably gentle start for everyone, I think. Okay, let's move on to round 2. And this is our marathon or Fil Rouge round, which is a recurring round looking back at things we've covered in previous episodes of the podcast. For most of them, it's reasonably easy to have at least a guess. So if you've not listened to the podcast, then, or really you should have done, but you're not going to be at any great disadvantage. Question 1. In April of this year, we looked back at a few of the many shows featuring pop music, including Shangalang. Who presented Shangalang? Question 2. In February 2023, we celebrated The $6 Million Man, starring Lee Majors. But what was the name of the character Lee Majors played? So what was the character name of The $6 Million Man? Question 3. September 2021 had us reminiscing about the old 1930s cinema serials which were reshown as part of our holiday broadcasting. Buster Crabbe starred as Flash Gordon in those shows, but he also starred in another set of serials as an astronaut. What was the other character's name? And question 4. Bagpuss featured in an episode in March of this year. What was the name of the little girl who owned Bagpuss and owned the shop in which he and his friends lived. And question 5. In February 2022, we looked at magic of different types, from Bewitched to Catweasel via Sooty. Which actor played Catweasel? So who played Catweasel? So how do we get on with those? No time to celebrate or to lick your wounds, as we need to get on to round 3. And this is our famous spin the wheel and name that tune combi mashup round, which sees me spin our specially constructed Wheel of Fate, which, in response to some of the questions that have been asked, is actually behind the camera if you're watching on YouTube, to select a year from the 1970s. I will then feed that into our state-of-the-art AI-powered theme tune generator, which is also behind the camera, and we'll then select 5 theme tunes to shows which were shown in the UK for the first time in that particular year. A correct theme identified equals a point. Why don't we spin the wheel? And it's landed on 1974. Okay, let me input that into our AI-powered theme tune generator and see what we get. Okay, let's play theme tune 1. I loved that show. And on to theme tune number 2.
Beware the beast man, for he is the devil's pawn. Alone among God's primates, he kills for sport, or lust, or greed. Yea, he will murder his brother to possess his brother's land. Let him not breed in great numbers, for he will make a desert of his home and yours. Shun him, for he is the harbinger of death.
That was quite scary in a way, as was the show itself. So on to theme tune 3. Now, I'd imagine that was reasonably straightforward for some of you, but how about theme tune number 4?
Meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here, the boys to entertain you, with music and laughter to help you on your way, to raising the rafters with a hey, 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 with songs and sketches and jokes old and new, with us about you won't feel blue. So meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here, the boys to entertain you. B-O-B-O-Y-S, boys to entertain you.
Again, quite a straightforward one there, I think. But how about this one for theme tune 5, which may have some of you scratching your heads? And here we go. We're on to our final round already, and this is our TV Times round, where anything UK trigger related goes. Question 1. Who narrated the cartoon series Bod? Question 2. In which year of the 1970s was the film Carry On Camping first shown on UK TV? Question 3. Before Terry and June, Terry Scott and June Whitfield played a married couple in a very similar BBC sitcom. What was it called? So what was the name of the pre-Terry and June married couple sitcom starring Terry Scott and June Whitfield? And question 3. What was the name of the travel-related show shown on ITV as it tried to compete with the BBC's holiday programme? So what was the name of ITV's version of the holiday programme? And question 5, finally, on John Craven's Newsround, who was the long-serving space editor? And if you remember, space was everywhere in the 1970s. It was really quite something. And there we are, all done for another of our quizzes. But before I reveal this week's answers, let's go back to the bonus quiz from last time. I asked you, in the US super soap Dallas, JR and Bobby Ewing's brother Gary appeared early on in the show. He was rather the black sheep of the family, although Miss Ellie loved him dearly, as mothers tend to do, and he was also the father of Lucy Ewing. After lots of scheming and intrigue by JR, he remarried his first wife, Val, and they left to live happily ever after in California. That was until Lorimar decided to launch a Dallas spin-off featuring the newly remarried couple. What was the name of the spin-off series? The series was called Knots Landing, if any of you remember that one. If you got that answer, then well done. Now, this week's bonus question is, in the controversial sitcom Love Thy Neighbour, what were the names of the two couples who lived next door to each other? So I want 4 names there, the 2 couples who lived next door to each other in the centre of the show. If you know the answer, then let me know by dropping an email to quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. Okay, so on to the all-important DNA results. Sorry, quiz answers. Not sure I came over all sort of Jeremy Kyle for a moment then. Let's go to these answers. The name of the game. Question 1. Hosted by Hughie Green, the show had a travel theme and contestants could win a luxury holiday. That was The Sky's the Limit. Question 2. The Blackjack or Pontoon theme game show, hosted by Fred Dinage of How, was Gambit. And the not the game show, but the show of games where contestants played pub games like darts, bar billiards, shove halfpenny, well, Fred Truman set a smoke to pipe. That was called the Indoor League, and we shall never see its like again, I'm afraid. Question 4. The TV version of Pluto, initially hosted by Edward Woodward and then by John Pertwee, was called Whodunnit. And question 5. Different versions of the same game show where couples tried to demonstrate how much they knew or didn't know about each other in the hope of winning a carriage flock. And that was Mr. and Mrs. Our second round, our marathon or Fil Rouge. Who presented the pop show Shangalang? Couldn't be anybody else other than the Bay City Rollers singing that very song. Question 2. What was the name of Lee Majors' character in the $6 Million Man? So what was the $6 Million Man's character's name? He was Steve Austin, a man barely alive. And in the 1930 series, we have Flash Gordon, but then also Buster Crabbe starred in another set of serials as an astronaut who got lost in time. And that was Buck Rogers in the 25th century, which was very similar to Flash Gordon, I seem to remember, but let's not be too picky about that. And question 4. What was the name of the little girl who owned Bagpuss? That was Emily. She owned him and still loved him. And question 5. Which actor played Catweasel? And that was the late, great Geoffrey Bayldon. All right, on to our Name That Tune round. These shows are seen for the first time in the UK in 1974. First one, that was Simon in the Land of Chalk Drawings, which I did enjoy, though there was always a bit of sadness about the central character, Simon, the way he was drawn and the way he moved around. But maybe I was a bit oversensitive at the time. Question 2, that is the opening theme to the TV series version of Planet of the Apes. Theme tune 3, that was the Mr. Men, the original Mr. Men, voiced by Arthur Lowe. And question 4, that was the BBC sitcom It Ain't Half Hot Mum, And theme tune 5, a bit trickier this one. This was the theme tune from the comedy about accountants in an office. We had to really think them up, don't they? That was the Squirrels. All right, on to our final round, our TV Times round. Question 1. Who narrated the cartoon series Bod? That was John Le Mesurier, better known as Sergeant Mills in Dad's Army. Question 2. In what year of the 1970s was Carry On Camping first shown on UK TV? That was 1975. And question 3. Before Terry Scott and June Whitfield played a married couple in a very similar sitcom. What was it called? It was called Happy Ever After. And question 4. What was ITV's equivalent to the holiday programme? It was Wish You Were Here, ... question mark, with the wonderful Judith Chalmers. And finally, on John Craven's Newsround, who was the long-serving space editor? That was Reg Turnhill. So, how have you done this time? Are you as excited as a school child who's just realised that the summer holidays have got another 3 or 4 weeks to run? Or are you the child that has got exam results coming in August and you already know you failed and you're worrying what to tell your parents? Whichever, thank you for listening. And if you've enjoyed the quiz, then please do tell your friends. And also let us know via the methods I mentioned earlier. Join us again next week for the next in our regular podcast, and again in a fortnight for our next quiz. In the meantime, enjoy the summer, unless you're listening to the episode in winter, which you catch up an episode, so that comment won't be very relevant. And do join us again soon for more from My 70s TV Childhood and the My 70s TV Childhood quiz.